What's up to my favorite bunch of beauties? Let's talk about something nobody really prepares us for. The quiet shift that starts happening after 40. Not the loud, dramatic changes that people warn you about. I'm talking about the subtle ones. The moments where you wake up and something just feels different. Your energy feels different. Your tolerance feels different. Even the things that used to motivate you don't land the same way anymore. And if you've been sitting with that feeling, like you're standing somewhere between who you used to be and who you're becoming, this conversation is for you. Because from what I've seen and from what I've lived, there are 3 stages women move through when their life starts shifting after 40. Not rules, not labels, just patterns that show up again and again. So let's talk about it.
I breathe it in, I let it go. I'm becoming who I already know. Beauty over age, I rise and glow. Power in my spirit, peace in my soul.
Before we get into the stages, I want to set the tone for the conversation. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's not about reinventing your whole life overnight. And it's definitely not about becoming some brand new version of yourself just because society says midlife is a crisis. What I've noticed, both as a nurse and as a woman walking through this season, is that the body, the mind, and the spirit start asking for something different. Sometimes that shows up as fatigue. Sometimes it shows up as emotional clarity. Sometimes it shows up as a quiet voice that says, this no longer fits. And that voice deserves attention. Stage 1 is what I call the awakening shift. This is where awareness begins. You might not have the language for it yet, but you feel it. Maybe you notice your patience is shorter, not because you're angry, because you're more honest with your energy. Maybe conversations that used to feel normal suddenly feel heavy. Maybe your body starts asking for rest in ways you didn't expect. And let me say this clearly. Awareness is not a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes awareness is simply your life asking you to slow down just long enough to notice what's changing. For many women, this stage feels confusing because everything on the outside still looks the same. You're still working, still showing up for family, still doing what you've always done. But internally, something is shifting. I remember noticing moments where noise just felt louder than it used to. Situations that I once tolerated started feeling misaligned. Not dramatic, just different. And that difference can feel unsettling if nobody explains that it's part of growth. Awareness often brings a deep need for peace, not isolation or withdrawal, just a quieter way of moving through the world. And if you're in this stage, you might find yourself asking questions like, why am I feeling this way? Why does my energy feel so protective right now? And what am I being invited to see? That's the awakening. Now, this stage right here, this is the one nobody talks about enough. This is the in-between season. This is the season where life starts reorganizing itself, but you don't have all the answers yet. You might notice friendships shifting, priorities changing, even your relationships with silence feel different. And this space can feel lonely if you don't understand what's happening. Because you're no longer who you used to be, but you're not fully settled into what comes next. This is what I call the yielding season. Not giving up or losing yourself, but allowing life to unfold without forcing clarity too soon. For me, this is the kind of season where the yellow chair becomes important. That quiet space where you sit, reflect, read, breathe, and just let your thoughts exist without rushing to solve everything. And let's be honest, our culture doesn't always honor this phase. We're taught to push through, stay busy, to keep proving ourselves. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is pause long enough to listen to your own rhythm. In this stage, emotions might feel closer to the surface, not because you're fragile, but because you're becoming more honest with yourself. You may release expectations that once felt permanent. You may step back from situations that drain you. And you may start choosing peace in ways that even surprise you. That is not a breakdown. That is reorganization. Then comes the realignment. And let me say this, realignment doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like quieter mornings, clearer boundaries, more intentional conversations. You start choosing what supports your peace instead of what satisfies everyone else's expectations. This is where power begins to feel different. Not loud, not performative, just steady. You might find yourself saying no without over-explaining. You might notice that your definition of success shifts from productivity to alignment. And that is powerful. Realignment isn't about becoming someone new. It's about living more honestly as the woman you already feel yourself becoming. And when that happens, purpose starts to feel less like pressure and more like direction. So, if you recognize yourself somewhere in these stages, awareness, the in-between, or realignment, know that transitions after 40 are not a straight line. They're a rhythm. You may move back and forth between the stages as your life evolves. And that's part of the journey. I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, where am I right now? Am I noticing new awareness? Am I sitting in the in-between? Or am I stepping into alignment? Drop it in the comments. I really want to hear where you are in your season. And if this conversation spoke to you, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more women can find this space where we talk honestly about what life really feels like after 40. Before we close, though, I want to say something gently. If this conversation resonated with you and you're sitting there wondering, okay, but where am I really in these stages? That's a deeper conversation. And I didn't want to rush it here because some reflections deserve a quieter space. So, over inside the BOA Collective, I'm sharing an extended conversation called How to Recognize the Stage You're Actually In. It's slower, it's more personal, and more reflective. Not extra information, just a deeper layer for the women who want to sit with this a little bit longer. And if that feels aligned for you, you're always welcome to join us there. All right, let's close this conversation together. And hey, if these videos are helping you feel seen or supported and you want to show a little love, you can buy me a coffee. Just scan the QR code on the screen. It helps me keep making content for women like us who are owning this season of life. Until next time, stay powerful, stay peaceful, and I'll see you in the next video.